Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Mike Doloff, one of your co-hosts on our webinar today, along with Harry Senga from RingCentral. So glad to have you with us. Just by way of a couple of quick updates, and then we'll jump right in. We're going to keep this to 30 minutes. We've got a webinar coming up later this week talking about DR in the cloud, specifically around UC and contact center. What are ways you can achieve that? Definitely a different dialogue if you're coming from the prem world. And then we've got a Connect Readiness webinar coming up too for folks that might have prem Mitel. So excited to have all the folks we've got on the call today. By way of a quick introduction, Mike Doloff, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Inflow Communications. Been in the UC contact center space for about 10, 11 years or something like that. So love working and talking about this. I'm excited about our topic. We'll jump in, but before we do that, let Harry give a quick introduction on himself as well. Say hello, Harry.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for attending today's webinar, everyone. My name is Harry Senga from RingCentral. I've been at RingCentral for about 3 years and in the UCaaS space for about 10 years. And today's presentation will be sort of how to improve your communications and collaboration with a unified communication solution.
Awesome. Thanks, Harry. We'll jump right in here too, just to preface kind of what we're going to cover for everyone's benefit. What we won't be jumping into today will be a demo. We've got plenty of opportunities and ways to do that. It's probably better when it's more use case driven by your environment. But what we want to do is kind of give you a peek behind the scenes, if you will, on what's changing with unified communications with cloud, what's going on specifically. We hear cloud, we're sick of hearing the word, we get it, right? But what's going on in that? What's driving that when it comes to the unified communication space specifically? Give you kind of a behind the scenes look at that, as well as where's RingCentral fit in that? What's up with RingCentral? What are they up to? What's their what are their strengths? And so we've got Harry on to speak to that. We've got and kind of really highlighting as well, where does Inflow and RingCentral, where do these worlds intersect, and what does it mean to you as a customer? And then also obviously stay around to the end. We've got a drawing for a gift card as well that we'll do at the end of it after we do finish Q&A. So we'll jump right in here. You can see the agenda. We'll give a quick intro on Inflow, what's going on with UCaaS, why is UCaaS a hot thing, and why does it matter to you? What's up with RingCentral? Why RingCentral? Why are they the main player in the UC as a service space? Talk about our partnership, and then Q&A and gift card. Feel free to ask questions any point through this. We'll be looking at that, monitoring questions as well. And we can certainly tackle them at the end as well if there are some outstanding ones. So let's jump right in here. So brief introduction to Inflow. If you don't know who we are, all we do as a company is we focus on UC and contact center solutions. We're a short-term Mitel Platinum partner, RingCentral partner, Genesis. We just focus on a couple really key partners and relationships where we can go really deep and work really well with that technology and bring it to customers and help that make that really work. So we'll talk more about that towards the end. Got customers and employees spread across the U.S. Support about 200,000 endpoints. So a lot of what we live and breathe this space in the technology world every day. So what are other companies doing? Sharing those insights. What's motivating other people if they're doing prem to cloud? What are the drivers? Sharing kind of that insight and knowledge to you, so you get a sense for your organization if you're influencing or making decisions on your technology. We're responsible for that for UC. What are some of the things you can glean from the thousands of hours of conversations that Inflow has or RingCentral has with their customers? And then as a company, we're focused on the customer experience we're support services organization. So that's obviously a key part of what we do. And a big part of that's education. So this is why we like to give you kind of the behind the scenes look at these types of conversations. So this won't be just a marketing deck. This will be kind of some of the nitty gritty as well. So jumping in, a couple customers real quick, just some customers we work with, companies of all shapes and sizes across the U.S., some of the ones you'll recognize here. Some of the stories I'll tell will be probably related to some of these customers as well. So let's jump into the why UC as a service and what is that and what's going on there. So I'm going to focus really on the why part. UC as a service, by way of definition, right, is unified communications that's cloud-based. Someone else's data centers, public cloud, private cloud. So jumping in, what's going on? Why is this? It's frankly, number one, too, is UC as a service has been a lot slower than other things, right, as far as cloud migration. A lot of companies moved email up to Google or Office 365, things like that. The UC stack on-prem, CRM systems mostly in the cloud. UC has been a lot slower. Why? Well, there's been always concerns with voice in cloud of QoS, right? SD-WAN and some of these technologies have really taken over the last couple of years, have eliminated largely a lot of that, as has growing bandwidth. So some of it is sort of some of the technological advances that are mitigating or eliminating some of those issues that people had initially of, hey, I don't want to move to cloud, I'm worried about call quality, or what about my WAN? A lot of changes, that infrastructure is changing and facilitating an easier move to cloud when it comes to your voice services. The other thing too is, I wish I had a graphic on this, but the UC Magic Quadrant from Gartner is actually gone this year. They're not doing one, which is shocking, right? If you think about, that's been around for UC for, I don't know, probably a decade or more, and they're not doing one this year. They've cited sort of the lack of a number of players in that space and just sort of a market transition that's going on with UC as a service. So pretty interesting that shift is happening. Obviously, lots of mergers, acquisitions in this space, a lot of consolidation of players. There's just not a lot of prem-only or companies that do UC that have a prem focus. So there's a lot of disruption going on at multiple levels here that's sort of driving an uptick in UC as a service. Another thing is, you've got really I've always joked about unified communications as sort of everything but unified, right? In the past, you have 6 applications for your users, for video, for something, for meetings, another thing, for their traditional telephony, PBX stuff, a different application or technology to interact with. That's changing. You're starting to see finally this becoming true unified communications, where you have a solution. RingCentral obviously is a core part of that, right? That's been one of their tenets, is bring together different modalities of communications instead of patching everything together. Or if you do have different applications, let's leverage APIs to bridge those together. So even if it's a different application on the desktop, it's still interacting with your PBX or your video conferencing, these different parts in your messaging. These things are all feeling more like a unified platform instead of silos of technology. So we'll jump more into that with Harry, but that's another thing that's changing. People finally getting there, and I think some of it is this idea of, hey, our personal apps and communication seem so simple. Why hasn't business been like that? And so I think the enterprise is catching up to that pretty rapidly now. Something else that's changing, and I'll never forget walking into one of our customers who they're looking at a large shift in their workforce. They have a lot of employees who are retiring out, and they're trying to hire that next generation of employees. And they said, look, we need to talk cloud, and we need to move. And we asked a lot of questions. We dug into the conversation. One of the things, though, that was actually a big motivator for them was they needed to be able to recruit and attract great talent that's younger in their career, and they needed to be able to do that and offer up tools and collaboration capabilities for a different type of workforce that was distributed in a different way, had different expectations, and they felt like what they currently were working with was going to hamstring them for that, and that they would not be able to recruit as well or retain as well and work as well. And so there's a lot of drivers for it, but you've got more companies that, obviously we're in a growth mode as an economy in the US, and you've got people trying to fill seats, can't hire fast enough type of thing, opening new offices, having remote employees, all these changes to that workforce that IT is being asked and tasked with working and supporting. And so how do you have these people not only meet the technical requirements, connecting securely, et cetera, but also be able to collaborate and work as effectively, even if they're in a completely different, in a second office now for your business or remote. And so all these sort of gaps are being exposed for companies that historically haven't addressed them. And technology, UCaaS is really sort of where the innovation and growth is largely happening, and so sort of filling those gaps. Another thing is money, and there's the pros of this and the cons of this. On the one hand, you've got, look, people vote with their wallet, what's winning, and UC as a service is where people are largely leaning towards when it comes to significant changes in their environment. So you've certainly got sort of the people, right, the customers making those decisions for sure. On the other hand of that too, though, is the companies in this space, right, their valuation, their worth, if you will, right, is also tremendously higher for recurring revenue. That's no surprise, but that's the reality of recurring revenue. So you see these really large valuations for companies that have recurring revenue. So there's more money, investment, and growth there. So it's sort of a two-part, right? But certainly there's a need from the customer side, but there's also a larger amount of capital and investment being spent for those UCaaS providers such as RingCentral to really continue growing and accelerating and meeting that and exceeding and hitting that demand. And then lastly, I think there's sort of this tipping point that's been reached. Everyone's been talking about hosted voice and UCaaS and different phrases for the same thing for a long time. It's here, it's coming, whatever. It actually is definitely happening. You see it out in the street. We see it every day where this is, again, it's not 100% of people are making that decision, but certainly a larger point. I think the big change has been this isn't just an SMB idea anymore. This isn't somebody with 20, 25 phones. We're seeing large enterprises with thousands of seats make this change because they're comfortable architecturally with what it can do. They have needs from a feature functionality perspective for some of the reasons and others we've discussed, and enterprises are adopting that. So we're seeing that sort of mid-market and enterprise space making that shift. So this isn't sort of a fringe play for the small business. This is kind of the mainstream, hit the mainstream, if you will. And again, this will be a long cycle of change. So if you feel like, gosh, we're not ready, we're not there, no problem. You're in the same boat as a lot of people, but just know kind of as a general shift, this is happening. So with that, I'm going to pass it over here to Harry and talk about, so where does RingCentral fit in this big UCaaS shift? So Harry, turn it to you, man.
Thank you, Mike. Perfect, thank you. Next slide, please. There we go. So as Mike has mentioned, there's a lot of, the biggest thing we see is generational shifts, right? A lot of organizations that are hiring people, they come in and ask, what technology are you using? What can we use? I use a Mac, or I use a PC, and I use this type of Android device or Apple device. So one of the big features that some of these customers are using is the collaboration piece. Not is it just voice anymore. These different generations want to communicate in multiple different ways with each other. RingCentral, we are one of the largest players when it comes to unified communications in the world, actually. We have about 450,000 business customers. I know Mike had mentioned endpoints on his slide. The key there is once customer comes on board to RingCentral, we actually keep them over 99% retention rate with RingCentral customers, and that's in large to do with Inflow as well, providing all that complete package for service and support. We have about 4,000 employees now across the globe. Been around for about 14 years. We started out as an e-fax company, and then we moved into small and medium business. And over the last few years, we've been really selling into the enterprise space as well. So we call it one to infinity. I think one of the largest deals we've done is approximately 16,000 seats for a university out in California. Why are we a number one provider? Because we spend $100 million annually on research and development. That's probably the next 3 or 4 competitors combined is what they spend. Listed on the New York Stock Exchange. About 2 years ago, the stock was $20 US. Today, it's roughly trading at about $108 US. And that's a testament to our product, our technical abilities as well. The market really believes in us. We have the ability to deliver globally. I know Mike quickly mentioned the Gartner. Over the last 4 years, we were leaders in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And obviously, you can see we use a lot of organizations use us with over 4 billion minutes per year. Just a quick snapshot of the Magic Quadrant. Again, you want to, obviously, I think most of you on the call will know that you want to be to the right and up to the left as far as possible. So they measure this on the completeness of vision and the ability to execute. Obviously, we're really good at medium-sized business and ability to implement. But now, with our global implementation team working with Inflow as well and their implementation team, that ability to execute, it just expands, right? All over North America, Europe, and pretty soon we'll be in Asia as well. Then this slide sort of just talks to what RingCentral is. every user in your organization that receives, I guess you want to call it a desk phone or a phone number, will get all these features. So the foundation of our product is fax, e-fax, and voice, and then also voice conferencing. So each user would get their own 1,000-user voice conferencing bridge. Then we add on the applications, which, when we're talking about the generational shift, this is what they're using now. They're using video meetings. Each user will get SMS. So that SMS is separate to the SMS you get from your mobile carrier on your cell phone. That also includes MMS. We have team collaboration. We call that solution GLIP. It's similar to Microsoft Teams or Slack, if you've heard of that. And we say contact center, it's a light version of a contact center that's included in there. So you can, check your analytics, you can barge and listen to calls, you can even do call recording. And then at the top, we have differentiators. Organizations look at RingCentral. One of the biggest reasons is because of our open API. So integrations are huge with RingCentral. I believe we have a slide on that as well. And global office, I'd quickly mention that. We can pretty much deploy anywhere in the world within minutes. If you have users out there, all they need to do is download the application. And then the last piece is analytics. We have great analytics for all your users or your management team, where you can drill down to phone number, how long the call lasted, was the call dropped, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide, please.
You bet. Just to comment on the API thing is one of the biggest things that we see in conversations, and it kind of ties back to that story of where it's becoming true unified communications. It's leaving the silo of just voice or leaving the silo of video or messaging and bridging other parts of the technology stack, whether it's document sharing or other project management applications, you name it, bridging some of these for efficiencies and simplifying sort of the user experience. So,
thanks, Mike. Just a little bit more on the RingCentral Office solution itself. Obviously, we combine the cloud PBX. We have state-of-the-art desk phones, so we work with Cisco, Polycom, Yealink. And if you've got older models of that, that's something Inflow can look into for you, if we can reuse some of those handsets. We find a lot of organizations now are not even getting physical handsets. A lot of the organizations and the users, individual users, are actually just using the application. The collaboration, again, Mike just chatted about the team messaging and collaboration, which is sending large files and keeping that communication open. From what I've been hearing, email will probably be gone. Well, it'll slow down over the next few years. I mean, when you get a large file, you're on vacation, your email, we all know what happens to email. With team collaboration, there's no file size limit. So you're sending presentations or large documents, or even we have a construction company that uses us. They send actual drawings to each other, which we know they're big files. And video meetings. You can actually run video meetings off of any device. It doesn't necessarily have to be a laptop or a desktop. We had quickly mentioned the applications. So RingCentral, we have 140 out-of-the-box integrations. Some of the big players, Salesforce, Microsoft. We have 1,000 customer integrations as well, and those are the ones that customers have built an API to RingCentral. So maybe you've got a certain CRM that you're using, where the pop-up screen comes in, and you're using RingCentral. So we can do a lot when it comes to any of the applications that you may have, or you can use one of our 12,000 developers that'll help you build that API if you don't have your own team to support that. And we talk about global footprint. So RingCentral, we have global, in the orange, the global office countries. And we have approximately 17 data centers that are active around the globe. So if one data center does go down, you know that your system will still be up and running. And having said that as well, we obviously run off of the internet. We can also run off of wireless and any Wi-Fi spot that you're in as well. So there's a few different ways to look at this. I know that Mike and his team are doing one on disaster recovery next week, a webinar. Great to jump on that, just learn more about that. But RingCentral was actually built mobile first. So all the features you see there, they'll run perfectly on iOS or Android, and then obviously desktop and Mac as well. Just a small list of some of our customers. As you can see, we deal with public, private, and all sorts of organizations. Box is one of our customers. They were using, I think they were using 300 different types of applications. They had a very big disparate system. Out of those, we actually took 37 away when they started using the RingCentral app. And those other applications that Mike had pointed out to earlier, those are great applications, but the challenge there is managing each application, the contracts, when the contract renewals comes up, the technical support that you need for each application that you've got out there. With RingCentral, there's one app that incorporates all those, so you've got one contract and one organization to deal with if there's any sort of technical issues or concerns.
Perfect. I'll take it back over here, Harry, on kind of talking through the partnership. So fantastic insights. I'll boil down kind of where we see the strengths live, some of the strengths from an Inflow perspective we see with RingCentral and where Inflow fits in this picture for customers. So I'll go through the RingCentral side of this first to just kind of hit some of the highlights that Harry had spoken about. So, you know, RingCentral really leading a lot of the charge when it comes to that kind of next generation UC as a service technology stack. So voice, video, collaboration, mobility messaging, SMS, and more to that contact center. There's a lot of pieces in here that I won't dive into, but really leading the charge in that, right? And really kind of being that that platform that's sort of setting a high bar. The next item I think is part of that setting that bar high is making this an API centric. Gone are the days where your UC technology is sort of walled off and by itself, right? This is a time where UC and UCaaS I think is really accelerating with bridging out to the rest of the technology stack, making things actually better, actually unifying things, right? So that's certainly a huge strength of RingCentral's. I touched on contact center a moment ago, but I think there's a really strong play. There's a question on that I'll bring up in just a moment too. But what does RingCentral bring to the contact center piece? A lot. And RingCentral's continued to make really interesting and good moves, I think, in some of the acquisitions they've made recently around digital customer engagement and parts of the contact center technology stack. So that's a huge strength. And then lastly, I don't know the number off my head, but maybe Harry does, but just the amount of R&D, I know it was on one of the earlier slides that RingCentral's pouring into growing what they're doing today and continuing to innovate and evolve is tremendous. It's huge number. And I think on the slide, what is it, 100 million, Harry, is what it had on the slide. I think something like that.
Correct.
R&D. So a lot of effort to continue to elevate and grow the platform. And so seeing a ton of there. From the Inflow side where we fit, so we sort of look at this as sort of the yin and yang, right? RingCentral focusing on making a world-class technology. We're focused at really taking that technology, making it work for the business, right? Doing the projects, making that change happen. How do you make that successful as an organization? This is where the idea of the technology is great for a lot of people on the IT or other parts of the business, and then they go, but we got to do this project. This is where Inflow comes in, right? This is what we do, is make those changes happen. Project management team, implementation team. We've talked in the past on different presentations about how that cloud migration is very different than a prem deployment, and what are the gotchas and how do you avoid those. That's what we live and breathe. So we've got the team to make that happen. We do a ton with prem to cloud or cloud to cloud. You're seeing a lot of migration from prem to cloud. What should that look like? What should that process be like? How do you evaluate that? That's where we can help from early in that process all the way through to the execution of it. Another piece is we focus on, just as Ring is pouring tons of R&D into the technology, Inflow is investing into our people to continue to enhance that implementation. And then the other side is that support side of it. How do you get the most out of it? How do you get access to people who can quickly solve things, the troubleshooting and solving of problems? I wish, just like everything, I think our wish is when we move to cloud, everything's perfect and we're happy and done. As good as the provider is, you're still going to have things, questions or issues that will come up. How do they get solved and who do you work with? So we've got a team that's dedicated to working with this and working with customers on their RingCentral systems, helping them out to make sure we get the most out of it from a technical level. We know where to quickly troubleshoot items. So from a break fix perspective, we can kind of quickly address and nip issues. How do we proactively look at some of the items that come up frequently, like call quality monitoring and things like that? Now that we've moved architecturally our dial tone into a different space, how do we troubleshoot some of the common areas? So I'm good at that. That's what we do. And then lastly, we always feel like with any cloud technology, I don't care what it is, your value once you implement it is very, very, very low low amount of that is achieved once you make that transition. It's how do you get the most of that over time? How do you adopt and adapt to that? So the good news is as a customer, right, your investment is in that transition and then that recurring cost you have. So the provider, RingCentral, is really motivated. Like Harry said, they do a great job of retaining customers, and they're motivated in the economic structure. They're motivated to do that, right? They're sort of getting paid as you continue to use their service. And then from an Inflow perspective, same thing for us. We want customers to be adopting and using that technology. So we invest into our customer success organization to make sure it's all about not just that project, but how do you get value post-project? That's where you start to really get value of the technology. It's crazy to try to bite off everything that the technology can do when you make a transition. So you transition and incorporate some new things. How do you continually incorporate new things? How do you continually drive value to your end users? That's where we're focused at, really helping customers out. And we do that through our customer success organization. So paired together, bringing customers kind of that elevated customer experience with the right technology, the right help to make that happen and work for you. And so with that, I think we're at the end here. Let me just check. Yeah, so a couple questions. One came up around contact center. So just to elaborate a little on Harry's point, RingCentral as a UCaaS solution has kind of a light contact center natively within it. So you've got your sort of hunt groups and things like that, and you have kind of a light ACD capability within sort of the PBX side, if you will, of RingCentral. And then beyond that, RingCentral has sort of a next level contact center that you can include, and that's part of kind of the what makes sense for your environment, what are you trying to do, but that next level, right, skills-based routing, multimedia, digital engagement with customers, all sort of sky's the limit, but that's kind of the more omni-channel customer. Our contact center technology also exists with RingCentral. Didn't focus a ton of time on it today to just kind of get the overview, but certainly RingCentral has kind of the entire spectrum covered there. I'm just checking here if there are any other questions we didn't hit. Looks good. Looks like we got them all. So the other ones were addressed as we went. So with that, we're right at the top of the hour. So one of the two things left here. One of them is we love to get people with their hands on the technology, and I think with UCaaS and RingCentral, we make that really easy. So we've got a landing page here to be able to go, and if you want to jump in and look at a free trial, we'll get connected and help you get set up with that. I think there's a lot of power in being able to see it and experience it. So we certainly have that capability.